stuck in the shallow end. From the time Miss Linda first mentioned it, Li- Lydia worried about the swimming test. She could see it in her mind. The temperature would line up in bathing suit, all excited. One by one, they'd have to jump or dive into the water and swim across the deep end of the pool. That wouldn't be any problem for most of the chickadee, but Lydia had a secret that she'd hidden from her friends all week. She didn't know how to swim. Swimming looked easy when someone else did it. At the pool, she watched the older kids playing tag in the deep end, diving on the surface or swimming quickly out of reach, churning the water with arms and legs. She was glad her group had to stay in the swallow end this week. Let's play shark, Emily said. Ivy, Lydia, and three other chickies played. Ivy was it first. She swam on the water, stroking with one arm, while the others took straight up like a fin. The girl jumped out of her way, half swimming, half walking in the waist-high water. No one noticed that Lydia couldn't swim. She kept her feet on the bottom of the pool and managed to stay out of reach. She learned to take a breath of air, then dive underwater and stroke with her arms. When she needed air, she just stood up again. I'm cold, she told the others. I'm going to sit in the sun for a while. But you haven't even been it yet, Ivy said. She's too fast for us, said Emily. Lydia smiled and nodded, grateful to Emily for her answer. She sat on the edge cross-legged, watching the game. But what will I do on Monday? She wondered. I can stand up in the middle of the deep end, and on one deep breath, I can only get to the middle of the pool. A little later, she almost told Emily. They were lying on their towels by the side of the pool. Ivy was practicing swimming on the water, trying to get all the way to the other side on one breath. What happens if you don't pass the swimming test? Lydia asked. It's not hard, said Emily. Just one time across everybody passes. But what if someone didn't? What if they got halfway across and couldn't go any further? I guess the lifeguard would jump in and rescue them. Lydia glanced over at the lifeguard sitting on the tall white chair. A white safari hat shaded his eyes, and the triangle of white sunblock covered his nose. He sprawled on the chair with one arm leaning on the back. It was hard to imagine him moving quickly, even to rescue someone. Emily's answer made Lydia feel worse. No one had ever failed the test. She'd be the first. She'd jump in, swim as far as she could on the water, then run out of air and sink. Everyone would be watching. Someone would jump in and pull her out. She'd be so embarrassed. Or maybe they wouldn't even notice. She'd sink to the bottom and drown without anyone even knowing. Lydia decided not to tell Emily her secret after all camp assembly this afternoon. Miss Linda told them at lunch. Big deal, Ivy said when Miss Linda had gone off to sit with the other counselors. She never ate with the group. All the groups sat across legs facing the platform in the front of the hall. The director stood in front wearing the same baseball cap and the silver whistle. She looked more like an oversized kid when an adult. Campers, you are good sports with a spirit. We think you are the best group of campers we've ever seen. She paused, waiting for them to clap. Then she talked about team spirit and sportsmanship. Lydia picked at the side of her sneaker while the director droned on. She managed to peel off a long piece of grayish rubber from around the heel. Finally, the director read the name of the best camper from each group. Let's give a big hand for each of these campers as they come up to get their Camper of the Week pins. Monique won the chicken pin. She always stayed right by Miss Linda's side and did errands for her, running to the corner store to get her coffee in the morning and ice cream sandwiches after lunch. They should call it Slave of the Week. Ivy whispered as Monique went up front. Miss Linda heard her and glared. Ivy made a funny face when Miss Linda looked away again. After the assembly, Linda walked home with Emily and played some badminton. But even as she played, she kept thinking about swimming. Linda worried about the swimming test all day. Saturday, maybe it'll rain on Monday, she thought. Maybe the pool will crack in the middle and all the water will drain out. Maybe the lifeguard will get sick. Maybe I'll get sick, she thought. Aunt Connie and Aunt May were concerned. They spoke gently and looked at the quizzically as if trying to guess the thoughts in her mind. Don't worry about your mother, Aunt May said as they were weeding the garden together. She has everything under control. Lydia nodded. She hadn't been thinking of her mother. Mother. She'd been trying to remember how many lanes there were in the pool. Lady, I'm certain that your father is getting better. It doesn't do any good to fret on things. Aunt Connie said it later as they chopped cucumbers and tomatoes for salad. But Lydia hadn't been thinking of her father. She'd been wondering if it was possible to fake having the chicken pox. Sunday was so hot that Lydia's nightgown was stuck to her back when she woke up. She pulled on her shortest shirt and a tank top and went downstairs in bare feet. Aunt May was puttering in the kitchen. Iced coffee, iced tea, cold orange juice, cold melon, and coffee cake. The coolest breakfast I can think of, she announced, served right now on the sun porch. A slight breeze drifted through the porch screens. Lydia read the comics while her aunts split the rest of the paper trading sections as they finished them. Let's go to the quarry, Aunt May said, peering over the top of the paper. Water's always cooler there. What's the quarry? Asked Lydia. It's the place where they cut huge blocks of rock out of the ground. After they took out all the rock, there was a deep hole, and it filled with water from underground springs. And May tried to describe it, but finally said, "Wait till you see it." They drove out in the old green car. Lydia sat in the back seat with the picnic basket, army blanket, towels, and books piled beside her. Aunt May's plain straw hat and Aunt Connie's flowered one blocked most of the windshield. Lydia looked out the side window. To get to the quarry, they drove into the hills, deep in the woods, and May pulled off onto the dirt road and parked. Lydia followed her aunt up a narrow path crowded by the blueberry bushes. She couldn't see the quarry. Then the bushes stopped and she stepped it out onto the rim. Rock legs jutted out all around. In the center stood a deep pool of water with rocks, trees, and the sky mirrored in its still surface. They spread the army blanket on the wide leg overlooking the pool. "I am even hotter than I was before the car ride," said Aunt May. Barefoot, she picked her way down the staircase over ledge, ledge until she reached the water edge. Then she dove, her bony white feet disappearing last, like a pale fish sliding into the water. She broke the surface, shook her head, and called, "Come in." It felt divine. May, you sound just like one of those travel ads on TV. And Connie laughed, but she climbed down carefully and dove in without even a pulse. In a few seconds, she popped it up right beside her sister. Your turn, she called it to Lydia. Lydia made her way down the rocks until she stood at the edge of the pool. Two shallow ledges lay just beneath the surface. Beyond them, the water stretched down and down, deeper than she could possibly see. Out in the middle, her aunt floated calmly. The dark green water shimmered, rip- rippled from her aunt's strokes glinted in the sun. Lydia shivered and took a breath. For an instant, she thought she might just jump in, step off the ledge, and let the water fall around her, sink down until she touched the bottom. Maybe she'd find another world. Maybe there was a castle there, dark green, made of emerald. Maybe she'd float instead, or maybe she'd instantly know how to swim. She looked once more at the deep pool. No, she thought. Sometimes you just can't pretend in a deliberately loud voice, big and firm, to corner her embarrassment. She called to her aunt, "I can't swim." "What's that, dear?" Aunt Connie cupped her hand to her ear. "I can't swim." Connie still looked confused, but May explained. She said she can't swim. It's too deep to wade. Connie nodded, finally understand. It's shallower over there at the far end. May called. The let's go out farther. You can wade in and cool off. She didn't sound upset by the news. Lydia followed a path to the north end of the quarry. She waded out to her knees, then found a place where rocks made a chair. There she sat with her head and shoulders above the water, letting her legs float. After swimming for a while, her aunt climbed up to the blanket and lay in the sun. Lydia followed the path back and lay down beside them. Aunt May, lying with her eyes closed, said gently, "Lydia, I didn't know you couldn't swim. Are they teaching you at camp?" "No," said Lydia. "They don't know what I can swim." "They don't know?" After one while week, the swim test is tomorrow. I won't pass. Emily and I will. Then they will go to the deep end and I'll be stuck with the little kids. Lydia's voice shook a little. She didn't mention that she'd been pretending that she could swim and the others expected her to pass the test too. May opened her eyes and peered over at her niece, shading her eyes. Do you like camp? Well, Lydia hesitated. Actually, I hate it. All we do is sit around waiting to do the next thing. It's the most boring place I've ever been. My heavens, why didn't you tell us? Aunt Connie said. She was just setting up now. If you don't like it, you shouldn't go. Do the others like it? Lydia shook her head. As soon as we get home, I'm calling Emily's mother. I know we can come up with a better plan. Right, said Aunt May. You can spend some time at home doing whatever you please. What's the summer for if you don't have time to just sit around or ride your bike or sleep in the hammock, said Aunt Connie, or go to the library, said Aunt May, or play with the dollhouse, said Lydia, joining in with a giggle. She eased her shoulders back onto the blanket and sighed. She could hardly believe it. She wouldn't have to take the test. She wouldn't have to go back to camp at all. No more sitting in circles. No more jolting bus rides or damp, smelly changing rooms. No more Miss Linda and her slaves. She stared up at the sky filled with relief. The sky was deep in enamel blue, the sun a pale silky yellow. She even heard a bird singing in the trees across the quarry. She felt so light, like a helium balloon. If she didn't hold on to the edge of the blanket, she might just sail away over the tops of the trees. No more camp.